Welcome to the weekly show with Trevor McManus. I'm joined by a man who has his very own website based around being in love and staying in love. He's been married for 3 decades and is still very happy. First of all, congratulations and thanks for joining us today, Mr. Romance.
Thanks, Trevor. Glad to be here.
On behalf of all the dopey men out there, I want to know, in the spirit of Valentine's Day, what happens if Valentine's Day has come and gone and you've forgotten a gift or didn't deliver on the expectations of your missus? What do you suggest to get out of the doghouse?
Tough question. You know what? Romantic gestures really aren't meant to get you out of the doghouse, so I would actually just apologize and say, I will try better in the future. And then at some point, not related to that apology, do something romantic. You're kind of hooped if you've done a poor job of it. And you're sort of setting yourself up for more failure if you attach the two things. So, yeah.
There you have it. Don't mess around and just own up to your mistakes. Sounds simple enough. Now, I've asked our relationship experts of RatedGRomance.com as well as Facebook.com/RatedGRomance. You can also find the man on the Twitter machine at RatedGRomance, and he's here to compare and contrast my top 5 romantic movies of all time. Moving on, my girlfriend and I are in a long-distance relationship, and one thing that we do is up our long-distance plan, number one, and we watch the same movie at the same time while on the phone. It isn't as nice as being able to watch the movie with her, but it does fill the void, and it's almost like having a date, but 1,000 kilometers away. And not just that, but it's a cheap and fun way. In that vein, we've decided to watch a bunch of romantic movies leading up to Valentine's Day. Before my top 5 starts, I just want to suggest that Die Hard was a close runner-up. Now, hear me out. First, the movie starts out with a man landing from across the country just to visit his wife for the holidays. And there are other men that try and get in between them, but their love between them isn't affected by work colleagues or even terrorists. So a close runner-up is Die Hard. No? Okay, starting off my official top 5, starting with number 5, Groundhog's Day or 50 First Dates. I put both of these on there because they're basically the same idea, but Drew Barrymore is prettier than Andie MacDowell, but Bill Murray is darker and funnier than Adam Sandler, so it's pretty much a toss-up in that one. Moving on to number 4, it's Sleepless in Seattle. You can also throw Joe versus the Volcano in there. You've Got Mail in there as well, especially since it's the dawn of internet dating. But basically, You've Got Mail is Sleepless in Seattle too, so we're just gonna settle with Sleepless in Seattle. The movie's written by Nora Ephron, starring Meg Ryan when she was an awesome actress and one of the best actors of all time. The best actor of all time, Tom Hanks. It's a love story. Gets your heart going. What more do you need? Number 3 is The Bodyguard. All I need to say about this movie is I Will Always Love You. Simply put, the title track to this song has been replicated many times, but never, ever duplicated. And let's be honest, everyone, when they hear that song, is trying to hit that high note during the last chorus. But even though they've heard it 1,000 times, you can never get the timing right. And even though the song is actually a breakup song, it's still a beautiful, legendary track. And furthermore, it stars Kevin Costner as a bodyguard. Are you kidding me? There is nothing better than a love story. And you can add in some rough and tumble dude punching another man in the face. Simply put, the soundtrack, Kevin Costner's machismo, and a decent plot. You've got my number 3 movie on the list. Number 2, it's a no-brainer if you have a heart. The Notebook. The movie takes place during the 1940s, which is a brilliant time full of world clashes, lovely architecture, and really a time when people had to work just to stay alive. I think this is one of the most dynamic times in civilization. The battle between the rich and the poor is told so efficiently in this movie, and the bottom line, the theme of the movie is that love conquers all. Furthermore, you've got 2 Canadian actors and actresses. Throw in some James Garner. You got the makings of a beautiful story. My number 1 movie of all time when it comes to romance and comedy, Serendipity. I've been involved in a nearly 5-year debate with one of my good friends. Basically, I tell him that Serendipity is the best romantic comedy of all time, and he tells me to shut up. His gripes with the movie is that it's unrealistic because the 2 people who are so destined to meet each other continuously miss. but just by a hair. Key point, the elevator scene in the first 20 minutes of the movie, but I think that's what makes the movie that much better. It's a risk-reward thing. As the audience, you connect with these two people, and although Sarah has a weird ideology on love, and the whole serendipitous lifestyle is a bit frustrating, at the end of the movie, it's overwhelmingly glow for the final payoff. And it's just awesome. Once they finally get together, that's all you need. So those are my top 5. If you disagree, you can go on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Trevor McManus. Go on my website, trevormcmanus.com, or go on Twitter @Trevor McManus. Agree, disagree. Give me your top 5 movies that I may have missed. But more importantly, let's move on and look at how my list compares up to Mr. Romance himself. Gregory, would you like to show off your list?
Okay, I'm gonna actually come back to a couple of those as I go along. Before I forget, though, Serendipity I have not seen yet, and I'm embarrassed to say that, largely because it's your number 1, but also because I'm a really huge Kate Beckinsale fan. So I honestly don't understand how that one went under the radar for me. So I can't say good or bad, so I'm curious. You've made me curious. The other one that is not on my list that I have to comment on is The Bodyguard. In that particular song, I actually envisioned that as being the perfect father-daughter song at a wedding. And I have a daughter who, at some point, that might come into our lives. So love this song. Again, the movie sort of so-so, but for me. But let me give you some background before I give you my picks. My picks are a little bit strange because I actually have a problem with most Hollywood romantic movies. And the main problem for me, being all about the commitment side of things, is probably about 75% of romantic comedies are love triangle movies where there's a winner and a loser. And that kind of bothers me, and because it sets people up for this, if your relationship is bad, you can find somebody better. And that kind of bothers me. But now that said, some of my movies on my list do have that love triangle aspect to it, but just to give you a background why that's like that. So my number 5 is The Vow with, who do we have in here? Rachel McAdams and Channing Tatum. In that movie is what I would call a overcoming movie. It's about a real challenge in the case of a couple. She loses her memory, and he tries to stick with her throughout that. She eventually dumps him, comes back to him at a later time, and it's actually based on a true story. So it's an overcoming movie. Those kinds of movies are, to me, super romantic. And frankly, that scenario, if I try to imagine my wife not being able to remember even my name, just kills me. Like that's huge. Number 4 on my list, Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come. He literally goes into the depths of purgatory to rescue his wife and bring her to heaven. She's committed suicide. And again, it's that commitment, that going long ways to show your love to someone else. And it just happens to be one of the most beautiful movies you'll ever see in terms of the backgrounds and things. It was a lot of actually painted backgrounds. For the time, it was really fabulous. Number 3 is Hitch. This one kind of is a little close to heart to me because it's about a dating coach and all the foibles he goes through with someone he is actually trying to pursue. He's helping someone else, and all that happens there. That movie actually means a lot to me just because of that. There's obviously there's all the help in the world. You can help somebody to find a successful relationship, but ultimately it's about what the couple does together. So that one's there. Number 2, we agree, is The Notebook. And this one, I begrudgingly admit that I love this movie, and because it is actually a love triangle movie. If you think about it, it's got that aspect where she eventually marries, from pressure from her parents, someone, and then ends up back to the Ryan Gosling character, Noah, in the end. And the other part that's kind of funny about it is a lot of the things that the main character does to pursue her, you would get arrested if you tried to do them in real life. So it's almost like a superhero movie in that context. It's just so it's a little unrealistic in places. But that said, the ending, the payoff is amazing. The fact that James Garner is actually, I'm not sure if we're allowed, what kind of spoilers we're allowed to do here, but the fact that James Garner is still committed to someone who, frankly, has dementia, and is that it's just, I just even think about brings a lump to my throat. And then the last one is probably the most controversial pick. We were talking about this earlier, is the movie Up. This is my all-time favorite romantic movie, and I have to sort of qualify that in that it is a kid's movie. It's an animated movie, but there's a 4-minute segment to that movie that has no dialogue and is probably the most romantic bit of it. Basically covers Carl's life, Carl and Ellie's life, and what comes of that. So there's that section, and there's also a section at the end where he's been trying to honor her memory, and he finds out at the end where maybe he didn't need to do that because she always loved him regardless. And so it's funny, I tell my young friends, I hope you stay married long enough to get this once you're older, because it's a fabulous movie.
Before we did this interview, you sent me a list of your top 5, and I'll tell you, before we started the interview, I was bashing your number 1 on the list. I was thinking of all the romantic comedies he could put on there, he decides to put Up. Then my associate looks at me and says, you've obviously never seen the movie, and then goes on to belittle me and explain to me why your pick is a good one. So I want to hold my hand out and apologize because I was making fun of you, and I hope that in the future, maybe from now on, I can have my horizons looking up.
Thank you so much. It's actually interesting. On my website, I threw that out as a choice in, I believe it was 2009 that came out, and it actually was voted the number 1 romantic movie of that year by the people that come to my site. So again, you sort of have to get it, and the longer you've been together, the more you'll get it. And if you actually want to see that segment, you don't want to watch the whole movie, but you want to see that segment, I think it's actually available on YouTube if you want to look it up. But
and I will post that video on TrevorMcManus.com. Mr. Gregory Blake, thank you for joining us again this week. 2 weeks in a row of the 4 guests we've had on our show. I've really enjoyed everything you've given to us. So don't be a stranger and feel free to come to our next show anytime. You can catch Gregory Blake on his website, ratedgromance.com, facebook.com/ratedgromance, and within the Twitterverse @ratedgromance. Mr. Romance, thank you for joining us again.